Thank you, Veronica. And I apologize, Emerson, but thank you for being on standby. So next week. So I am very excited to introduce our speaker. And I'll say, I've been getting speakers the past few months, and I'm never really nervous to call someone, but I have so much respect for this woman. And I heard Astrid speak at FOTS last year, and she blew my mind. And she is such a powerful woman. And I am so happy that she said yes and agreed to do this tonight for us. And so with that, I will welcome Astrid.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to the group for asking me to come share my experience, strength, and hope. And it's a particular honor to be able to share on emotional sobriety, because for me personally, being in the trenches of AA, I just feel like so often this topic is not talked about enough. And it's just like, trying to get sober, what it was like and what it was like and what it was like. And it's not enough of, I'm coming up on 18 years and I really don't want to express over and over what it was like. I have 23 prostitution cases, 18 drug and alcohol related cases. I've been in and out of jail, every rehab. I've blown up my life over and over. Every family member hated my guts. I've broken out in handcuffs more times than I ever want to imagine. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. But I need to ask my own self, like it says in the book, I have to concede to my innermost self that I'm truly an alcoholic. And what does that mean? Besides having the physical allergy, what does that mean? And when the book says the main part of the illness centers in the alcoholic's mind rather than her body, what that means for me is that I have untreated alcoholism and it doesn't need alcohol to ignite it. And I love when Bill Wilson says in this, I'm going to paraphrase, but there are many things that are just sticking points. They're juggernauts. They're stuck down at the bottom. And with years and years of physical sobriety, they blocked him. He talked about his own experience. They blocked him from basking in the sunlight of the spirit. We also know a lot more about depression. I suffer from seasonal affect disorder. I don't get it every year, but it is interesting that he said autumn came. And when the days get dark, I just get slammed. Some years, yes, and some years, no. But some years, I want to suck on a loaded gun. And I need to express this to the group because I don't want to try to pretend that I'm a saint or that I walk on water, or just because I have a message, it doesn't mean that I don't suffer from severe untreated alcoholism. And the topic is emotional sobriety. So not to brag, but I don't think the chance is very big of me drinking today or tonight or tomorrow or possibly in the next week, because I know how to treat my disease. But that doesn't mean that there's not opinions, or I want things to be a certain way, or I don't like certain people. Probably that's my biggest one. I don't know. You know what? Probably my number one story is people are just dumb. They're so dumb. They're all a bunch of idiots. They're monkeys with car keys. They're clowns. That's the kind of stuff. They're this freaking clown. And, I'm the one drinking the Kool-Aid when I behave that way. I'm the one behind the wheel or in the grocery store or watching One More Time. The cake girl can't even get a candle on the thing. The literature guy just can't even suit up and show up. And it serves me no great purpose not to be in acceptance and not to be in some type of reverence and respect and love for my fellows, because that's where all the juice is. And that's exactly what he's talking about. Bill's talking about, why can't I, he says in the 12, hold on, I think I can find it. I'm going to get a page 64, step 6, having been granted a perfect release from alcoholism, why then shouldn't we be able to achieve by the same means a perfect release from every other difficulty or defect? This is the riddle of our existence, the full answer to which may be only in the mind of God. Nevertheless, at least a part of the answer to it is apparent to us. And then what I see him say in the essay is the same thing he says down here at the bottom of step 79 and step 8. He says, very deep, sometimes quite forgotten, damaging emotional conflicts persist below the level of consciousness. At the time of these occurrences, they may actually have given our emotions violent twists, which have since discolored our personalities and altered our lives for the worse. So I can speak for my own self. I have lots of characteristics of personality disorders or character defects. And I have to look at the primary ecosystem from which I came out of. There's a little bit of a myth in AA. Sometimes I don't love when somebody's forced to completely do an inventory and it's like, hey man, even if you've only got 5% of it, own the 5%, make an amends, if even for that 5%, you know? And where I think people often get confused, or the sponsor gets confused, is if you've been really victimized by a perpetrator, you know, severely beaten or raped or neglected, let's not go make an amends, because if you study psychopathy, you'll see that the victim might sometimes be the alcoholic and the alcoholic child, and then to push them into the lion's den and say, now go call Uncle Joe and tell him your part in it is that even though you were raped continuously, you're really sorry you didn't say hi to him at Christmas. So these are very fragile situations that we all need to take into great consideration. And I know that people that are taking somebody through the steps are doing their very best, but sometimes we get misguided in the wrong direction, and what seemed like a brilliant idea might turn out to even create more damage. So for me, I bring a lot of jargon and wisdom and talk about childhood trauma, because I personally believe that God didn't make babies alcoholics. They still haven't found the gene. We never see a 3-year-old that had a sip of beer and then he chugs a 6-pack and then he climbs over the fence and goes to God knows where, and I don't know, rides his tricycle all over town. It's a process to step over the invisible line. I have to look at who I brought to Alcoholics Anonymous and who began to drink to such a fashion that she decided to throw her whole life away. Self-esteem is such a fragile thing. And if you're born into an environment where you were never encouraged or held in high regard or seen or heard or nurtured or allowed to develop or expand in a healthy way and get squashed, what happens is, for lack of a better word, you can get the fuckets at a really early age and seek attention in other ways, lighting matches, I don't know, being the class clown, you know, being the first one to smoke cigarettes, having sex at an early age, seeking older friends and poor behavior and all kinds of manifestations, because I don't feel right inside. I don't ever remember as a small child, couldn't wait to go home and see my parents. I literally remember walking up from elementary school and seeing my mother's car and just dreading that I have to go in there. My mom's a war survivor and she's a classic narcissist. And if you study personality disorders, the narcissist is the hardest to treat. You can treat paranoid schizophrenia way better than you can treat narcissism. And still to this day, she's just a very, very mean and cruel person. And she loves to pit her children against one another and she can't say she's sorry. And I'm the only sibling in the family that can handle her. So I'm down in Laguna 2, sometimes 3 days a week dealing with her. And you know what? I take it like a champ. Like, I'm really, really grateful that I'm able to step back into the primary ecosystem and see the wild, woolly, crazy mommy that raised me, because forever and ever, I was the identified patient. You know, Astrid, she's the alcoholic. She's the heroin addict. She's the one that has sex with older men. She's the one that lies and cheats and steals. There was something internally, fundamentally, really wrong with me at a very early age, but I was not born with that. I remember questioning my goodness at an early age. I remember when my mother, she would always spank or slap, and she would do it like 5 or 6 times, and she would always use the word bad. She'd say, "You're a bad girl." And I remember I used to think, I don't feel bad. Am I bad? Before I really turned bad. And I thought, am I? And I remember being like maybe 6 or 7 and still being confused by it, because I hadn't totally stepped into those combat boots and wore it, you know, like a shield, like a sword, like well, this is who I am, you know, I'm the identified patient, I'm the drug addict, I'm the alcoholic, I'm the piece of shit. And what's unfortunate is that deep down inside of there, there really is a tender soul. There really is a God consciousness. There really is a broken, sad child. Interestingly enough, if you study psychopathy and you study personality disorders, by the way, are very different from mental illness. I don't want to get into that whole thing, but basically a personality disorder is I had to form character defects or tools in order to maneuver through my ecosystem in order to get my needs met. Whether I had to lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, throw my sister under the bus, blame somebody else, it was a way for me to get anything from some candy to some attention to a bicycle to being let to go to my friend's house, because everything was some kind of bargaining situation. So if you grow up in a bargaining environment, you become a bargainer and you become a manipulator. Nobody says that as a little kid, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become a manipulator, a liar, a cheat, and a thief, and an alcoholic, and a heroin addict, and then I'm going to wind up in Twin Towers a bunch of times, busting out in handcuffs, and then take a bunch of psych meds. Like, come on, let's get real here. And the beautiful thing about this program, and even the way Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob started it, is that, of course, we've got 87 years of this program, and so we have a lot more information. We have a lot more experience in alcoholism. They did the best they could at that time, but now we can see that a lot of this untreated alcoholism, you can see percolating and boiling possibly in kindergarten or even earlier. So when Bill Wilson says he wanted emotional sobriety, and what were these things that were stuck down in the basement of his soul and that he couldn't get rid of them, and then he called them false dependencies, and he even said dependencies on AA and on other people. In the 12 and 12, he talks about the three primary instincts: the instinct for sex, instinct for security, and instinct for survival. And he says they wildly and blindly drive me, and they far exceed their intended purpose. And so I can never match any kind of calamity with serenity. I'm actually the breeder of confusion for a very long time, with or without alcohol. What happens is I cannot function and I cannot think and act to good purpose. So at a very early age, I learn how to medicate with the only real medication I can get my hands on, which is Budweiser or vodka. And for a long time, it works fairly well as a solution for a while, I can blot out and drown out and disassociate myself from whatever's going on in my family life or what I did last night. But what happens over time is the brain barrier gets thinner. Alcohol hits a blood level at a whole different level. My liver begins to get pickled. Where I used to be fun and silly, I turn into a lunatic and fuck you want a piece of me? And I'm just a nutcase, really something to be dealt with. I mean, people are going to call security on this one. It's no joke, and I can't get along with my fellows. I can't think and act to good purpose. I don't play well with people. I'm a fair weathered friend. I fly by night. I'm with this guy and then that guy, and I blame it on everything out there. And if only people would listen, or if only they would just do whatever, or, I thought he was a nice guy and he turned into an asshole. I think my picker's broken, and he's just projecting like fucking Cinemax out there. And I have no capacity to look inside. Unfortunately, I believe that our society is really failing by not teaching us or encouraging us all to re-examine what we think, or to re-examine our behavior, or to loop back around a second or a third time when something goes wrong and go, hey man, what was my part in that? Or could I have done that better? Because it really creates a beautiful internal brake pedal where I can take some responsibility, and it gives me a space where I can coexist in a healthier level, where I can own my own, where I can feel some kind of healthy remorse, some kind of healthy shame, some kind of healthy guilt. And my moral fiber begins to straighten out again. When you are in fight or flight most of your life in an untreated alcoholism, it's pretty much just kill or be killed. And, whether I think I'm to blame or not, I just blame everybody else. And I don't know how to own it. And I don't know how to say I'm sorry. And these things had to come much, much, much later in life. Thank God they came at all, if we look statistically at alcoholics and certainly drug addiction, even though this is a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I do believe that the first part of step one is the only part that talks about substance, because there's something seriously wrong, whether you're drinking or smoking meth or shooting heroin or masturbating to porn or eating tons of chocolate cake or cutting yourself or going to a casino. There's just a mechanism that wants to check out, because I cannot deal with life on God's terms, or I cannot deal with life on life's terms, or I cannot deal with whatever the situation is at hand. I don't know how to just be a worker among workers or back down, God forbid, like humility. I just don't even know what that word is. And, like it says in the 12 and 12, nothing's going to turn me into a non-entity. Or if I keep, backing up, what am I going to look like? A hole in the donut? I don't want to be nothing. So the ego just balks at the investigation of this. So the beautiful thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is, if you don't want to be here, don't worry. You won't, for real. You just won't. You won't be here. Bye-bye. See you. Wouldn't want to be you. Thank God I got what's called the gift of desperation, where my bottoms, one after one, were so harsh and so painful and so awful. And I lost so much over and over again that there was no place left to go. Pitiful, incomprehensible. You get arrested for prostitution 23 times, How do you even talk about that? You wouldn't believe the amount of strippers and hookers that call me on a yearly basis and go, how do you get on a podium and talk like that? There's nobody doing that. You know how? Because I'm not that. I'm not that at all. It was all consequences and byproducts of drug addiction and alcoholism. It has nothing to do with who I am today. It is what the disease drove me to do, like so many other things. I mean, in the end, I was that kind of woman where everyone was like, get her away. Don't invite her. We don't want her anywhere near here. I just was completely something to be dealt with on every level. And because our society has maybe more of an issue with sexual connotations, that maybe the prostitution is a little, but God forbid if I was Patty Hearst and I had a freaking submachine gun and went into the bank and got a bunch of money, everyone would say, yay. And I think that crime is way worse. So whatever, pick your story, pick your poison. You know what? If you don't like me, I'm not here for your approval anyway. Anyway, the bottom line is, how do I find emotional sobriety? What does that look like for me? Well, second half of, hold on, I got to get rid of that phone call. The second half of step one says that my life is unmanageable. I have to concede to my innermost self that my thought life is unmanageable with or without alcohol. I do not need liquor to get pissed off or have an opinion, or just be disgusted or irritated by somebody, or think some big, awful story, or, just want to be dismissive or cruel or mean. It doesn't take liquor, the liquor's but a symptom. And so I have to see what still triggers me throughout the day. And he's so eloquently, God, I hope I can find it. I think it's at the very end somewhere where he says, of course, I haven't offered you a really new idea, only a gimmick that has started to unhook several of my own hexes. Nowadays, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I have been given a quiet place in the bright sunshine. And so what he's saying is that he has stared down the more subtle nuances that pop up from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind. With things like Black Lives Matter was really such a great awakening for so many of us. And we get to see our own racism. And racism is at a subconscious level. And I've had to ask myself things like, if I was walking down the street and there was 11 o'clock at night and I'm trying to get to my car and 3 black males were walking towards me, would I cross the street? And if 3 hippies with freaking tie-dye shirts were walking towards me, would I cross the street? And then where does my mind get the information? And these subtle nuances are the things that I have to admit and accept. Who am I? Where do I get the trigger? Where do I get the opinion? Where do I get these stories? Where do I operate from? Where did this dialogue even come from? And I see that most of it is so primal, I can't even quite detect it. It came from an environment with parents that thought a certain way, maybe the teachers that thought a certain way, neighbors or friends that thought a certain way. And I start to question my mind. I question it. I question my mind because it speaks to me with great authority and it thinks it knows everything. And if I don't watch it, I'm just going to be asleep and run by the old character and this old dialogue. And if I do that, I'm eventually probably going to harm myself so much that I'm going to wind up getting so thirsty that I'm going to wind up at the liquor store. So in the end, I think for a lot of people with a lot of sobriety, what we really want to do is pay attention to the more subtle things. You know, when I'm dismissive of people, when I better be invited to your party, but I really don't want to go, you know, that kind of stuff. Or, you know, I see somebody pass away and I'm like, well, you know, that's what fentanyl does these days. And it's like, wow, man, somebody just died, you know, like that's so not cool. But that's sometimes my first thought. My first thought is still the old character. And then I have to look like, can you imagine? Can you imagine thinking you're snorting a line of coke and boom, you're dead? Like, come on, Astrid, like, chill out and don't be so mean. She thought she bought a bindle of coke. She did one line and she's dead and her children are freaked out and grandchildren and everything. And I really have to continue to examine myself and stop projecting out into the world because it's me. The calls are coming from inside the house. I'm doing it. And, you know, in the end, I truly do believe that I can stay so treated and so in step 2 and step 3 and step 11 that pretty much nothing bothers me, that I can stay in a state of acceptance, in a state of awareness, in a state of having a truly open mind, you know, constantly remind myself I'm no longer running the show, you know. Any life run on self can hardly be a success. We must be rid of the self or it kills us. Selfishness and self-centeredness we think is the root of our trouble. God, I offer the self to thee. You know, deep down in every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. These principles, I need to examine them. Like, how do I get rid of self? What is self? How does it operate? Well, if the main part of the illness centers in my mind, what part of my mind? Well, the bigger part of my mind is the subconscious mind, and the conscious mind is this teeny part with an ego. And the ego says, don't go down there. We know everything. We don't need to look again. We don't need to self-examine. And that's just the worst guy. He's the one that's going to get me drunk, that's going to get me into hatred, that's going to get me into an old pattern. And what I'm trying to do is get down into my heart mind, which is where intuition lies, which is where the telephone booth for God is, which is where the fourth dimension is, which is where enthusiasm and inspiration are. And there's just a wisdom beyond belief inside of all of us at a cellular level, but I have to learn how to back down and get still and tap into that. And what that takes to get there is stillness and self-examination and slowing things down and having an internal brake pedal. And when something pops up, instead of acting on it, examine it like, wow, where'd that opinion come from? Or why would I even want to say that? Or how is that going to serve anybody? And literally question and question and question my mind. And this is where we begin to uproot these things, offer them to God. I have to really come to believe that a power can continue to restore me. No matter how many years of physical sobriety, I'm always going to have an affair to practice a principle in, because we're stuck in time. We're stuck in a time warp, and we're stuck in time, and time is always throwing curveballs at us. There's always planes floating by. There's always some kind of situation where my mind wants to talk to me about it. It wants to figure it out. It wants to be right and somebody else is wrong. And maybe I don't have to do that anymore. Maybe I can just be okay with not having the answers, not needing to know anything, accepting the things I can't change. You know, having an open mind, having an open heart, having the serenity to accept what it is that I can't change. And in that place, what's really unusual and spiritual and beautiful is that's where inspiration and intuition do rise up. And what happens is, I believe that all of us have a genius that's stuck in our basement at a cellular level. And when I move self out of the way, the thoughts and the feelings that download from somewhere else vibrate at such a higher frequency that my peace becomes my most valuable asset. I don't need to be right anymore. I don't need to get into a big conflict. I don't need to get into I don't care if you can be right. You can be right all you want. If I'm going to pick a battle, it's going to be a really good one. And you know what? You better watch out if you're going to get a fight with me, and I'm going to pick a good one. Because if I'm going to go, I'm going to go balls to the walls. But you know what? 99% of the time, I'm just going to back. It's cool. We're all cool. Everybody just have a good time, have a good life, have a good whatever. I need to keep track of the time. What am I doing here? It is 5 after 6 here in Los Angeles. How much time? What do I have? Like 30 more minutes?
So, yeah, just literally as long as you want to go. Yes.
I don't fill it up if nothing comes to mind. I guess the things that I've overcome in life and the things that I still continue to overcome are when you come from a rejected environment. Probably one of the most repetitive stories for all of us is going back into the primary ecosystem and just wishing that our mom and our dad would love us. Just if I could tap dance hard enough, maybe my mother will like me. Maybe my father will recognize me. And to be free of that desire, to be free of ever wanting that again, or ever needing to behave in that way, or knowing at a conscious and a subconscious level, no matter how hard I try, she won't ever love me because she's not capable of loving her children. That's a huge gift. I can see in my family, I have 2 siblings. One of them is in active alcoholism and the other one is dry, and they still tap dance. They would just do anything to have my mom love them. And I just watch her just go off and shoot her BB gun at me and at them. And for the most part, I just don't take it on. I don't allow it to affect me. I don't allow it to harm me. I've made amends with my daughter, and I can tell you, any mommy or parent that is here on this feed, when you have left your children by the side and then you try to repair it, I can promise you one thing, at a conscious and a subconscious level, that pain never goes away. It just doesn't. So don't fool yourself. Just don't think that, oh, it's all going to be lifted. Are you kidding me? Being a parent and being a mommy is so primal. And my daughter's going to get married and she's going to have children, and it's still in there somewhere. But I'm grateful to God that I can even see that I've come so far. I've come so far that I can even admit and accept the things that I cannot fully change. And the God in step 2 and in step 3 and in step 11 make that possible. I can really, 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 come to believe that a power can restore me and keep turning towards this power instead of towards self. Keep asking the God to please guide me, to help me to constantly remind myself I'm no longer running the show, to put me in a position of neutrality, to help me just be in acceptance. And it says the answers come when my own house is in order. 99% of the answers are, I don't know and I don't need to know. It's not like some big, profound, like, wow, I'm Einstein, MC, whatever starts, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that. It's like, hey, you know what, Astrid, you can back down and you can just stay in the process and you can just allow things to unfold. And however they unfold is God's will, and you can be okay with that. And if you really feel like you need to pipe up or you need to interject something, then go for it. But be sure that you're aligning your will with God's will, and that you're centered, and that you're not trying to, inject an ego feeding proposition, as they would say in the big book, that I'm really, working for a place of, my highest good or the highest good of others. So for the most part, when I'm with family members or even my mom, she still likes to, sometimes she's so full of shame. I'll be at her house and somebody will come over and she's 87. This is Astrid. She's the heroin addict one. Thanks, Mom. Cool. Yeah, I used to stick needles in my arms. Right on. Thank you for the introduction. You know what? I got to just shut my mouth. There's nothing I can do. I know what she's doing. She's just kicking her children. Why she needs to do that, it's so, the narcissist is just such an enigma. It's such an enigma because it works for the dark side. And yet if you told it you work for the dark side, it would say, I'm full of light. Are you kidding me? You're the one that's dark, you know? And so you either take it like a champ or you remove yourself from it. And God calls me to just be in a state of awareness. Just watch her. Do I really need these people to like see me or pat me on the back or love me or recognize me? You know, there isn't enough approval out there to treat my disease. You know, my peace truly, truly, truly is my most valuable asset. You know, I wanted to touch on Emmett Fox, you know, the golden key. And it's just so easy. It's such an easy demonstration. And Emmett Fox was, you know, he was, I believe he was a mystic, and he was somebody that Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob were very attracted to. And they would go listen to him in the 40s at Carnegie Hall. And Emmett Fox says this, you know, in the Golden Key, he says, you must stop thinking about the trouble, whatever it is. The rule is to think about God. If you are thinking about your difficulty, you are not thinking about God. To be continuously glancing over your shoulder in order to see how matters are progressing is fatal, because it is thinking of the trouble, and you must think of God and nothing else. Your object is to drive the thought of the difficulty out of your consciousness for a few moments at least, substituting it for the thought of God. This is the crux of the whole thing. If you can become so absorbed in the consideration of the spiritual world that you forget for a while about the difficulty, you will find that you are safely and comfortably out of your difficulty. And that doesn't mean that you don't get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, that he or she isn't leaving, that you might be losing your house, that you're in a war in Ukraine, that the stock market crashed, that whatever, you know what, things are flying at us all the time. The third dimension is a real thing for us stuck in this monkey suit, but it's not what's happening that's killing me. It's what my mind continues to tell me about what's happening that's harming me. And so, like I said before, I really want to learn how to meet the calamity with serenity. I want to learn how to back down. I want to learn how to have peace. And I want to learn how to view these things from a steadfast, objective view. I really, really want peace. And it took a long time. And then, you know, as we do our inventory and we make amends to people, you know, honestly, here's another thing. I just don't dig when I don't even want to say the group. There's a couple of groups. I just don't think it's cool when you tell people, if you don't finish all your 9-step amends, you're going to drink again. You know what? Where does it say that? That is so mean. That is so mean. And we're so scared. We're terrified of everything anyway. Like, oh my God, I have a whole new life and I don't even know how to drive this thing. And so if God doesn't put the desire in your heart to make amend, please don't do it from your ego. Like, it has to come from a place of a living surrender where I've got spiritual balls enough to call up so-and-so and just say, hey, you know, whatever. I don't know. Their ex-wife, they beat her, you know, your ex-husband, you fucked his brother. I don't know. You stole from your employer. Bad things. We do bad things. We do a lot of bad things. We did bad things, and it's not easy to go clean all of that stuff up. But I believe that it's a spiritual process that's outside of time and space. It comes from the heart mind, and it comes from the intuition, and it comes from, I'm entirely ready to have this removed, to have a new experience, to set aside everything I think I know about this, to be slapped in the face, to have people say, get out of here. I don't want your amends. Don't ever darken my doorstep again. Believe me, I've got 2 people in my life. They don't ever, ever, ever want to even hear my name again. Does that still hurt? Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it a little bit right now. You know, I'm not a saint, you know, there's still stuff in there. You know, probably some stuff will be floating around at some weird level until the day I pass away. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm really just trying to live along spiritual lines and lighten the load. hopefully have a little bit less baggage as the months and the years go on, and maybe, be an attraction to other people in Alcoholics Anonymous, that I can be a woman that people look at and they say, she has something that I want. I don't know how to save people. I don't have it in me. I'm not God. I don't know how to run people's lives. I personally believe I'm not a very good sponsor because I don't want to be in charge of people. If you call me up and say, I know I'm married and my boss is married too, but you know what? I think we should have an affair and I'm really in love with him. I just think, you know what? Maybe you need to go fuck your boss. Maybe you need to blow up a bunch of lives. I don't want to be the police. I don't care. Then get fired. Great. Tell your kids, make a pixel billboard, call everybody, have a party. I don't know. Like, I can't get all invested and on my muscle to try to stop and control these people, my babies, my girls, my pigeons. It's too much for me. I love, you know what? I never noticed, by the way, until today. I love that Bill Wilson actually does a 13th step in here. Did you guys see the 13th step? He says this. I love it. Here we go. Okay. He still doesn't feel happy. And if his next following case, so he's talking about sponsoring, if his next following case turns out in later times to be his best friend or romance, he does. He says, fuck your sponsee. I swear to God, he said it. Bill, you dirty dog. Then the sponsor is most joyful. I mean, you know what? You guys, this is not a straight line. It's hysterical. Look, it's really funny. I swear to God, he says it. 13 step for you go, Bill. You know what? And it gives more broad room for whatever, even all of that stuff. You hear everything around here. The sponsor fucked the sponsee, the sponsor fucked the sponsee's wife, the sponsor stole the money from the sponsee, the sponsor slept on the sponsee's couch and relapsed, and we've heard it all. The inmates are running the asylum. Like, what do you guys expect here? We expect some kind of perfection. Are you kidding me? It's a house of cards sometimes. And when I say that, again, my thing is very much invested in childhood trauma and how we got so defective in our character. Who did we bring to AA? Where did these tools turn into defects? How did I turn into such a manipulator? How did I get to a place where I didn't care how drunk I got, how embarrassing things were, that I could still just override it by getting more wasted, more drunk, peeing in my pants, crashing my car, getting into fights, losing my wallet, whatever. I mean, just awful, 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 awful things. And waking up in the morning and doing it again. The average child that comes from a household where their self-esteem was nurtured, they go to a party one time, and vomit and piss in their pants. I guarantee they don't ever want to get drunk again. I'm like, dude, that's fucking par for the course, or have sex with a stranger, or God knows where anything is, my wallet, my car. I mean, just bewildered, beyond belief. So to come into AA and to begin to clean up, it's a lifelong process. It's not hurry, get through the steps. It's a relay race. What step are you on for? I'm on 8. See you. Wouldn't want to be you. It doesn't go like that. It's a spiritual kit of tools laid at our feet. And over and over and over again, it's about self-examination. It's about owning my part. And sometimes it's about seeing that I was completely victimized in certain situations, that I maybe didn't even place myself in a position to be harmed. We see more and more, like, we're getting to now see the generation of children coming in whose parents smoked meth their whole entire childhood. Like, there's a whole new ball of wax coming in now. The kids whose parents shot dope the whole entire childhood, who just tweaked through the windows, and oh my God, it's a whole new, it's not just children who, my dad was at the bar all night. Oh God, things are getting freakier and tweakier out there. How are we going to help these people? What am I going to do? Rush through the steps, Oh, you don't have a sponsor, 90 meetings in 90 days, better go get a commitment. All those outer observances are fine, but if I don't learn how to really take my own temperature and look internally, and maybe have somebody that's invested in helping me look inside internally, and especially where I'm off the mark over and over, where there's one particular thing that you can clearly see that I don't want to look at. And you help me in the kindest way by throwing a mirror over and over and saying, hey, Astrid, I don't think you want to look at this. But in the end, it's either God is going to show me what it is I need to see, or I'm going to be stuck in self for years. I remember my first 2 years of sobriety. I went to my sponsor's house every other day, 3 days a week. I went to Vic Harrell's house because I was so scared and I needed this message so badly. And I would go there just full of drama. You won't believe what this person's doing, and my mom and that person. And he would always say, you're such a drama queen. You're so addicted to drama. And I'd be like, these people are idiots. You don't get it. I'm not addicted to drama. 2 years, every day I'd go in with another story. I remember 2 years into it, I left his house. I was in my Honda Element. I was on the 210 freeway. I was looking at the mountains and the top of my head blew off. And I went, I get what he's talking about. Every day I go in with a different story. I am addicted to drama. I am the self-manufacturer of my own misery. 2 years, somebody said that to me every day for 2 years it took me. So this whole thing is so outside of time and space. Thank you, God, for showing me whatever it was that I needed to see at that time, and that I was able to see it, before I passed away. But when it comes to enlightenment, I don't know who's supposed to wake up and who's not. I have no idea. I do not know. My friend Kathy, who's on this meeting today, she and I were talking about, like, when real kookamoos come in and they're just like, their share is all over the place, and then they're interrupting, and then they actually have the audacity to say, and you know what, I want to kill myself. And we're like, okay, well, it's time to 5150 you, because you're not doing that in this meeting. Oopsie, you blew it. And I don't know that she's ever going to wake up. Maybe she goes to meetings all over the place and tells everybody she's going to kill herself. Maybe that's her daily freaking ding dong. Don't do that here. Don't do that here. And why in the world? Why would I even want to spend an hour with someone that's that asleep? I'm not being mean. I'm just saying she doesn't want what I have. She comes to contaminate the well. I mean, somebody that's leading with their wound like that, I don't know what it's going to take to wake them up. And you know what I'm talking about when we're talking about those people. They're so far from possibly ever owning anything at all. It's victimization, and I'm going to kill myself, and maybe someone should feel sorry for me, and I need to sleep on somebody's couch, and my car doesn't work, and I have a rash, and my skin itches, and my cat's got fleas, and oh God, it goes on and on. It's so vampire-y and so parasitic. I don't know how to wake somebody up. It's not my thing. It's God either is or God isn't. How this fourth dimensional thing happens in people's hearts and their minds is miraculous. It literally is a miracle from God. It absolutely is. If you hear the special dog whistle and you get so hungry for this message, you win. You win the lottery. You win the spiritual lottery. You don't need money. You don't need a facelift. You don't need him. You don't need her. You don't need the job. You don't need the car. If you can find peace, and you can find staying in enlightenment, in the sunlight of the spirit for more hours in the day than you're with self, you win. And in that space, why in the world would you ever want to drink? Why would I want to go to sleep? Why in the world would I want to be drunk every day and then hungover? Ugh, I'm old, man. I'm 62. I finally got rid of hepatitis C. The last thing I want to do is pickle my liver again. No, the last thing I want to do is wonder, where's my car? What did I do? Who did I talk to? Like, that is so frightening. No thanks. No thanks. I worked really hard for what I have, and my life is important to me. My peace is important to me. My friendships are important to me. My program is important to me. And, people said to me over and over again, they'd say things like, Astrid, if your life isn't important to you, well, then I'm not going to make your life important to me. I needed to hear things like that. I really did. Like, where's the line? Where's the boundary? Because boundaries for me were just all over the place. I didn't know them. Still, sometimes I don't. I'm progress. I'm never perfection. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I hope we have time to let other people share. I don't want to be a podium hog. It's good to see so many faces. God bless everybody. And you know what? Man, I'll tell you, you know what? I hope you find what I found here, because this is the best damn deal in town. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not spiritual kindergarten. It's a never-ending process of excavating. Thanks so much, Sarah, for asking me to come share my experience, strength, and hope.
Thank you, Astrid. That was literally the best. Oh my God. Thank you so much. So we could do this. So do you want to call on a few people, or do you want me just to open the meeting?
Don't. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I know a bunch of people. I'm going to call on my friend Kathy. Kathy, are you there? Come on, Kathy. Is she there? She left.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I'm here.
Okay.
It's just my button's not working.
Talk about that girl that wants to kill herself. Fire it up.
My buttons aren't working. Hi, my name's Kathy. I'm an alcoholic. And thank you so much, Astrid. You know, it's funny you were talking about emotional sobriety, because I just read that yesterday with a woman I sponsor, and we had a really, really good discussion about it. And the thing that comes out of that so much is false dependencies. That's what really hits me every single time. You know, am I dependent on you? Am I dependent on the meeting? Am I dependent on this book? Really, the only thing that's going to work for me is if I put my dependence on this power that's, I still can't really describe or, you know, understand completely. But what's happened is I've been able to really start to dig deep and get to know this power better, and get to, I do a practice called two-way prayer. And what it's allowed me to do is make friends with this God, and talk to this God, not just, you know, every morning on my knees, say the same prayer over and over and over again, but it's like during the day, hey, power, God, what's going on? I'm checking in. I'm still here. I'm okay. And if my thoughts start to attack me, you know, I can say, God, my thinking's all messed up. Can you please help me? And, you know, it's right now I'm doing a couple of, I'm doing a new book study project with someone, and it's just the little bit of it I've done so far. I feel like I'm on the verge of just this spiritual breakthrough, and it's just so exciting. And I can't wait to see how it's going to come out and what's going to happen. And that's what I've learned here, especially in prime time, is this God is so big, it has no boundaries, you know? And every day I find out that God's just a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and I can't see the wall, you know? And it's just amazing. And that's where this article takes me. You know, he talks about false dependencies, and that really resonates with me. And if, as long as I'm dependent on God, then I won't have these false dependencies. And as long as I keep doing the things that I've been doing, then I'm going to get to know God even better. Every day I get to know God a little bit better, and a little bit better, and a little bit better, and a little bit more. And it's incremental, but it's just wonderful. And thank you so much, Astrid.
Thank you, Kathy.
And thank you for calling on me. And I love you so much.
Love you too. We got a good life here. Okay. Does anyone have their hand up? Are there any hands up? I can call on DJ, and then you guys have to raise your hands. DJ, are you still here? DJ from Bali.
I am. I'm just like,
Oh.
my phone keeps
Come on.
falling out of my hands. Okay. Hi. Great to be here with you, Astrid, and with everybody else. I can't even see myself now, but that's okay. You know, I just want to tell you this. I don't know if I should say this here, but I don't care. And that's this, as your sponsee, my opinion of you as a sponsor, and I'm going to tell everyone why, is that you tell it to me like it is, and you never tell me what to do. And I love that. And you treat me with enormous love that I have never felt from anyone else here. in Alcoholics Anonymous as a sponsor or even as a friend. So I just wanted to put that out there for you and for me, because I'm thrilled that we have the little interaction that we do, you know, on a regular basis. I love you, your share tonight. I might even get the recording. It was just awesome, as you are. Thank you so much for
You.
being a part of my life.
Hey, you guys have to start raising hands. Come on, people, fire it up.
Cindy?
Go for it. Just unmic yourself.
Oh, oh, I could do that, Astrid. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm here because I want to support Astrid, who I love. I can never get enough of her. Every time I hear her over the last 3-4 years, I hear something new, something more, something deeper, and that's what I want. I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper because I am very sick. I am one of those with grave emotional and mental disorders. I go to some dual diagnosis meetings because I guess they're outside issues in AA, and you know, Astrid, how they balk at that. So I came on this meeting because Astrid posted it and I love her. I am interested in where this meeting is and if it's a usual meeting, but I have my 7 p.m. regular meeting with my sponsor on Zoom at 7, so I'm gonna have to hop off. But Astrid, you know, we are the same age. My oldest daughter is named Mackenzie. She goes by Kenzie. She just got engaged. And my youngest daughter turning 25 on Sunday, with a master's degree, by the way, and a practicing therapist for 2 years in childhood mental health. But I sent a very special package to her for her birthday. Nothing store bought. I mean, you can't even. Anyway, she sent me a picture that when she arrived home, the box was there, it was opened and it was empty. And I'll tell you something, Astrid, and I'm sorry because I am just not doing well, but since Tuesday night, I have been in an anger rage, and I'm so hurt. And now, because I'm on SSI, I have little income. I don't have anything for her birthday and it's all gone. And I felt so violated and I felt so angry. I was beating my pillows for 5 hours. I've been screaming for 2 days. Talk about trauma. Oh my God. I'm just trying to get better. I'm trying to understand, like, what the hell is fucking wrong with me? Sorry, thanks for letting me share.
That's okay. I feel that, you know what, just try to get centered and get into a state of acceptance. Getting into emotionalism isn't going to change anything. You know what, everything's connected and somehow God has a hand in this also. You don't have to lose your mind over it. You really don't. It's just stuff. It's just stuff and more stuff and more stuff. You're safe and your daughter's safe and you have a good life right now. There are no problems. There are only solutions.
Where is God?
Fine. Okay. Thank you. Is there somebody else? I think I see a
I think
hand.
Don was next.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm alcoholic.
Hi, Dawn.
Thank you, Astrid, for sharing. I've been I've been coming to this meeting from, you know, very early on at its origination. And I tend to take notes. And I jotted down a few things that you said that just sparked my response. And one of the things you said, I don't know exactly how you said it because I didn't write it down exact, but what it said to me was, you know, you talked about subconscious demands and that deep inside of me, there's a soulful being. And that it gets covered up by all those things that you were mentioning. And I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I mean, I was just an appalling human being, and I had done appalling things, and I couldn't fit into the world around me in any normalized way. I couldn't even fit into meetings in a normalized way. It just wasn't happening for me. I was so, torn out the frame. And I've heard you talk before about the childhood trauma, and the beauty of this meeting is we're allowed to talk about things. This is not an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. This is an emotional sobriety workshop, which gives us the space in the room to talk about things that we don't otherwise necessarily talk about in AA, or which would be condemned or poo-pooed by the people otherwise. You couldn't have brought up Emmett Fox. No, don't do that. That's bad. So here you can do that. And I have had to really, really go through multiple, situations, getting outside help. I was, clued in to certain things about me that if you corner me and I get fearful, I will revert to type. And the type that I come forward with almost immediately is, get out of my way. And I do not do interfered with, gladiator woman that shows up to solve the problem. And this is not well received in polite company. I've had this happen in meetings where sex of the meeting in the clubhouse got up, left the part of the clubhouse that I was in, and went to the other section. They did not ask me to leave, but they left. And it has been real promising here to know that my inability to live inside of my own skin without additional help is going to cause me to drink. Now, I haven't drank in a long time. I've had to do a lot of re-examination. Am what I'm thinking is real? What did I do? Did I do that again? And there comes a point where my problems pile up on me in sobriety and become astonishingly difficult to solve. And at some point, my answer is just what you said, another case of the efforts. I'm never going to be able to get it. It's not going to work for me. It's not working for me. Everybody else seems to be okay, but not me. No, it doesn't work for me. I've been there. And it has been a real gift to be given that my solution is being worked out on the spiritual as well as altruistic plane. So when I come to Alcoholics Anonymous and I show up in the meeting and I put the chairs away, or I go to the PI subcommittee, or today I run around putting out the little QR codes and the little, outside libraries for the Richmond area so people might be able to pick up and get our meeting list, which is perpetually changing because of COVID still. Yeah, I do that. Very altruistic of me. That is not the solution for the soul sickness that I have because of the insecurity that I was born with into this world. And when I talk about my story, I always talk about the fact that I grew up in an alcoholic family and that the damage was done long before I picked up a drink. When I picked up a drink and I slammed it back, the relief came at once that treated the alcoholism that was existing in my life 12 years before I ever took the first drink. So I was 12 years, the pump had already been primed. I needed a drink. And I needed to be able to medicate myself until 25 years old when the hand of Alcoholics Anonymous reached down and said, come on, baby, we're going over here. At 25 years sober, the hand of Alcoholics Anonymous reached in again and said, come on, baby, we're going to stay over here. Because I was traumatized again at a level that almost got me. And I love what you said about the mechanism that wants me to check out. And I like the way you said it, because that's a quote. There is a mechanism within me that wants me to check out. You said that. I don't know whether it's a common thing you say or not. But what I can tell you is that mechanism is very mechanical and it snaps right to the table. And it says, it's time. Do it now. Something's got to be done right now. And the reason that it's so important that I have that altruistic and spiritual solution is when that mechanism kicks in, something else has got to be able to catch me. Because I'm going to do the same thing, get the same result, won't have to do anything different. And there we have it. That's what we got. I don't, and I can tell you this from when I was drinking. I drank because I would get so angry and do so many things. And I would be like, ugh, I hate the world that I live in. I hate it here. Slam. Suddenly the world became a safe place. I probably could back myself into that corner sober without some sort of spiritual help. So I like that you talk about how the psyche influences our experience sober. And I do need an entire psychic change, and none of us can produce it. But you can hold me in the fire safely long enough for that spiritual solution to enter my being and save my soul, because I'm not going to make it here. It's too hard. So I appreciate everything you say. I appreciate when you say it. Again, sometimes we are unpopular with the things we say. And I know it can be, people don't want to hear about trauma. They don't want to hear about it. Well, the facts are, I sponsor a few people, and I'm telling you, we got it. We got it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. So I lost track, I'm sorry, of who raised their hand first. So I'm going to call on Bobby next.
Hey, I'm Bobby. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much, everybody, and that shared. But Astrid, oh my goodness. And thank you. First of all, I want to just say thank you to Sarah and Don and Sam and Veronica for running this meeting all the time. I found this meeting a little over a year ago, and I've never shared here. I love this meeting. It has done so much for me. And Astrid, oh my goodness, thank you. What? Oh, I don't even know where to begin. I could take up an hour myself speaking on what you spoke on. So I'm gonna go with this. Everything you shared is it just I related to so much, and I love the way you share, and I so agree. And what I love about this meeting is what Dawn said, is we can share stuff that would normally be poo-pooed. And I love that you say that, because sometimes I need to share that stuff. My alcoholism brought me to places with many different ingredients mixed in my life, went down many paths, and but the alcoholism was the basis. But what I really wanted to say to you is I used to say, I think I was born an alcoholic, I used to say that, and your share changed that. I've been working with a sponsor, and I stalled out. I'm on the fourth step, and I stalled out several weeks ago, and I've been praying a lot, like more than I ever have. And someone mentioned their relationship with God becoming this almost friendship, and that's where I've been. It's where I've been lately, and it's been amazing to me, because I was doing the prayers in the morning, at night, on my knees, and lately it's just been this thing where I just talk to him or whatever throughout the day, but he's been answering me, like literally. And I feel like this meeting tonight was one of those times, Astrid. I truly do. And I'm going to share something I've never shared with anybody ever. And it's something that came up when I was, approaching the work I need to do. And it ties in with what you said about being born alcoholic. And I was abused at about 4 or 5 years old. Like no child should ever be abused. I've never ever talked about that, ever, other than with one friend. And, but lately what I've been praying for and talking in here, and it needs to be talked about and addressed, it really does. And it was something so, it's just come out lately. It's been there my whole life. I knew it happened. It never, I want to say, I never even gave it a second thought. Like, it never bothered me is almost what I want to say. I know that's not true, but the way it's coming out now, oh, it's like almost to me in a way, all the shit I've been through. Oh my God, Astrid, I'm going to re-listen to you, because like all the shit, man. And you make me want to share so much. It's easy for me to come in. I've been around AA for a long time. I could come in here and tell you, make you think I'm doing good, all that shit, whatever. I don't want to do that. I want to feel good. I want that. I want what you have, and the sponsor I've been working with, the way you were speaking, I see that I made a good choice in my sponsor, because he gives me that love, and he gives me that space, that infinite time I need, but he also calls me on my shit, and I just so, I don't know, I just so like love to share, and to know that I need to acknowledge that abuse and do whatever I got to do with it, is just that being there is so important, and it makes me want to get into other stuff, I love your honesty. My abuse and drug abuse brought me into working in the world of prostitution for 2 years, with prostitutes and all drug fueled stuff. And so I identified there too. There's just so much went through there, and the places our lives and our abuse, our addictions bring us, is truly, it's not who I am or was, and the things I did. I really thought I was bad. I grew up in a decent, an alcoholic home, but my dad got sober when I was 5, and my home life was good. I became 2 people at a very, very young age, 2 very different people, and I led to this very double life, and to see that now, oh man, I just really love to share, and I'm rambling on a little bit, but it excited me, and I'm going to listen to it again. And I just thank you so much, and I just want to leave time for other people, but I thank you. I thank you.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
great
much,
night, everybody.
Bobby. Thank you. All right, Twyla.
Hi, everyone. My name's Twyla. I'm an alcoholic. And Astrid, I just love you. I've never met you, but I love you. And everything you said, oh my gosh, I'm glad I took notes, and I will get the tape. But I tell you what, I'm sitting here in my front room, and I think my door got blown off during your share, literally, because it was that powerful for me. And the bottom line for me in this whole recovery process, and by the way, I did have that wonderful gift also of desperation. I mean, I crawled into these rooms, and I am so thankful to God to this day for everything that happened in my life up to this very second that I'm sitting in right now. I am so thankful, all of it. Lately, I'm in the process of moving, and I've been in the same place, well, kind of in the same place. I travel a lot, but I've been in the same house for 30 years plus. So anyway, I'm only saying that because what I've been doing the last week is I've been literally going through stuff, paper stuff, journal stuff. And it has made me turn to God more than ever and say, thank you, God, thank you for my life. And then I've been able to just toss stuff in the trash and go, bless it, let it go. So thank you so much. I don't want to take up any more time, but I am just grateful as I can be. I feel like the paper that Bill wrote, of this emotional sobriety, I feel like this is a huge promise that we can get it if we're willing to show up and do whatever we got to do to get it. Talk to whoever we got to do to get it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Twyla. So David, Sacramento.
Technical difficulties. Hey, David Robles. I guess I get him. I'll call because that's who I am. Astrid, my sister. What a joy to run into you again. I know you're always going to be busy. You always have been. And I remember the first times I got to hear you share. Slow down. I want to write it down. Slow down. But I know that you will be sharing again, and you are recorded throughout the internet. So I wanted to thank you for your service and your willingness to carry the message in such a manner that I can see its effect on people just listening today. Maybe if it was their first time, it's powerful. It's powerful, and I'm glad you're willing to allow spirit and power to use you this way. And just hearing your story many, many times, and hearing where you came from and how this new way of living, this design for living, has brought you this far. It just renews my faith in the process. Just like every newcomer, I see their life change. I'm very grateful to this group for this message. I saw the topic and I wanted to participate. I like what you said about your greatest asset is your peace. I think you're not hearing me well. I think you said your greatest asset is your peace. And yeah, isn't that what it's really about? Because that therein is my serenity, and I'm able to, examine myself. Because again, like the old timers, I'm so glad I kind of listened to the old timers when I got here. It's an inside job, and I don't really need any outside condition to be a certain way for me to have recovery and quality recovery. And so I have to go through the process of the steps and to have my own experience so that I can continue to recover and then trust those experiences. So it will keep me in the game. So I just want to encourage everyone just to stay and share. And if you have a really, when I have a big struggle or something dramatic, I stop and I try to find the quiet in my breath. And this woman I listened to this week, her name is Olive out of New York. I always love listening to her as well. She said something like, there is evidence that spirit is with me, and that's in my breath. I have an unconscious contact with God simply with my breath. I can't stop my breath, and it will be with me until I pass into the next existence. So I need to continue to seek conscious contact with it because it's already there, and therein is my solution, my peace, so that I can be prepared for whatever's coming at me, no matter what comes at me. And I've lived through that, and I trust. So the last thing I'll say is there's this other little tool that I encountered this week, which is even though I'm right about something, I tend to be wrong in the way that I'm right. Like if I help someone and they were wrong, but I helped them through it, and I need them to acknowledge it, that's wrong. I don't need them to acknowledge it. I should feel well enough that I was able to be useful, or that they should kiss my feet because I stayed with them and worked on it so long. And why do they treat me bad? Don't they know what I've done? That's wrong. Even though I'm right, it's wrong, and it's something that will distract me from my serenity. So I'm so glad for Zoom, and I'm so proud that the Global Fellowship snapped into Zoom, and we couldn't go to the live meetings anymore. And I'm grateful that I didn't resist it, because I encountered a number of people that won't do Zoom, but that's their thing, and I'm, because I never would have met you. Okay, a lot of people shared for a long time, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop, and this is going to thank you. And I feel really great about the women and the unrecovered alcoholics around LA, the females, because I know there's women like you over there at prime time, and I know there's a lot of other strong ladies with a strong message. We're ready to be of service, so I know we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. So that's it. Thank you for letting me talk. Take care. Good night.
Well, thanks, David. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah and I'm an alcoholic. Astrid, that was just amazing. My brain is going, yeah, she gets it. Yeah, she gets it. It was like, I'm just amazing. One of the things that really stood out at me, and I'm working with a woman right now with the childhood trauma and the idea that, there's people out there that do things to kids that they should not be doing and in the darkest of the night and then, and then in the light of the day, and not having to atone for that. And, we worked with her and she had worked with a sponsor before and she said, but she mentioned to me, she says, but I haven't made amends for that. And I said, honey, you do not owe amends for that. There is no part, you have no part in that. A child who is abused or raped or anything like that has no part in that whatsoever. That is all on the part of the rapist. And the only thing that I have discovered that I can do about it is to find somehow to forgive. And I don't mean forgive in the sense that, it wipes it away and it validates it or condones it or makes it, okay. It doesn't. But forgiveness in the sense is that we cannot change what happened. Forgiveness and giving up the hope that the past could be any different whatsoever. I can't change what happened back then. I can't take that away. I can't make it go away. But I do not have to live with it day after day after day after day, because when I live with it, then I am hurting myself. I live with it, then I'm taking that on day after day after day after day. And that is just, I can't do that to myself. So the forgiveness comes in, and it's not about letting them off the hook. It's about me being free. When I forgive any perpetrator of some bad act to me, then it's about me being free. It's about me being free of that hatred and resentment and that anger that is killing me. It's not killing them. Nothing is, they're not losing sleep over it any more than they were back then. But I am. So I have to be free of that. So when we talked about that, I told her, that she didn't have a part in it, but that she could forgive herself and move on and forgive herself for thinking she had a part in it, and move on to that. But to let go of that hurt and that pain. And I know that's really hard to do because the memories come back and they come back and they come back. But, just know that God is taking care of you, and God is taking care of them. And if we go to that place where we can find God deep down inside of us, and, I don't have to go that deep anymore to find that God within me. I don't have to go there that far anymore, and I know that there was some sick bastard that did that. And there's nothing I can do to change it. Nothing, but I can let go of it. I want to thank you for letting me share. And Astrid, again, thank you for your share. That was just stupendous. Thank you. Bye.
So one more, Maria.
Hi, my name is Maria and I'm an alcoholic. I'll make it quick. I know we're short on time. I just want to thank you, Astrid, so much. Every time I hear you, I'm really grateful that because I heard you for the first time last year at FOTS, and it just blew me away because I just identify with everything, I come from severe trauma, childhood trauma. And, it's just, a lot of this stuff can't be talked about in regular meetings. And I've gotten outside help. I've been around for a long time, and I am so blessed to have the sponsor that I have that also comes from trauma. I was talking to her the other day and I asked her a question, and I have all these personas that I'm just becoming aware of, and, I asked her a question, and this voice with great authority answered, she said, "Who is that? Who was that?" And we investigate and we search, and, I am on a journey, I'm on a path and to really turn to God, not to be dependent on, being accepted, because that's where I go. I need to be accepted because, that I just didn't get that from my mother, and she was the abuser, and I had to do a lot of step work. My sponsor says, I'm not your mother. I'm not your mother. So and I could claim a little bit of spiritual progress in that area, but and I'm experiencing some freedom. This year has been difficult. I'm going through some different difficult things in life, but I love this meeting. I have really good, powerful, beautiful people around me that love me and support me, and I am grateful. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I came in broken, desperate. And for that, I'm grateful. Thank you. That's all I have.
Oh, thank you so much, Maria. I totally forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, we're having a emotional sobriety workshop business meeting immediately following this meeting. So all are welcome. If anybody wants to come, have suggestions of what we can do to improve. If you want to be involved in service, please attend. We would love it. So we have a way of closing this meeting. We mute ourselves and we say a prayer of our choice. And then we come back and we get to thank our awesome speaker. And thank you so much again, Astrid. Wow. All right, so we'll mute and say a prayer.